Three. Hello and welcome to another edition of the C Squared podcast. Your host Curtis with my co-host Aaliyah, and we are here today with Lisa J, who is a photographer and a musician. We're going to be talking to her primarily about photography today. So we're going to spend the next 40 minutes getting some questions answered about concert photography, photography in general. We have a lot of questions, and I'm sure she can give us a lot of answers. So first of all, Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So to start off, can you kind of give like a nutshell version of who you are, what you do, kind of a thing?
In like relevance to photography specifically, or
the nutshell version?
In the realms of metal is usually.
Yeah.
Okay. As I do way too many things. I try to at least. So I've been sorry.
I said do the nutshell version is all.
Yeah. I've been a photographer for over a decade. I do mostly concert photography and then occasional portrait work at like conventions and stuff as well. I've also played in a few bands as either vocals, guitar, bass, and that's it. Accordion. Yeah. So kind of all over the place with just in terms of music, I suppose.
Fair enough.
Multi-talented musician.
I try.
So I want to ask the first question. So how did you get started in photography in general?
I think that was a while ago. I want to say that was about 13 years, probably. I was always like the weird kid with like the random digital camera, like, like the little tiny ones that like could barely capture anything. And then at some point, the guy I was dating in my teenage years just decided to like, him and my mom got me a camera for I think my 18th birthday, I want to say. And then like from there on, I kind of just like started photographing shows, and I had a friend that worked for a webzine, so he kind of would get me photo passes for some events to kind of, like start out and get like comfortable with shooting at concerts and such.
Cool. Okay, I don't have a follow-up on that right yet, so I'll let Leah go next.
Okay.
Well, maybe this is something that could be interesting to people. How does one go about getting photo passes for shows if you want to be a photographer?
So you pretty much need to be part of a publication. That's why I've been having a bit more of a difficult time now, because I'm just like a solo photographer at this point. But generally you have to work, for some sort of like a webzine, a magazine, any sort of press. And then you have to kind of email the bands or email their tour managers or PR person, depends on how big of a band it is and who, like what label they have, if they have one at all. And kind of, like pitch the idea that it would be beneficial to them as well to have like either photos or an interview, or whatever else that the press serves to provide.
So what is the exact benefit that you tell them that they get from having you do their photography?
It's been a while since I've had to like send one of those emails, but generally it would be you show how many like views your website has, previous work of like your staff, basically just, I don't know, show them that there's enough exposure to give out like free stuff, like a free pass, basically.
You have to prove you're not a freeloader, in other words.
Pretty much. But at this point for me, it's like I've mostly just been photographing like friends and acquaintances bands when they come through. So a lot of the time I'll just like message someone on social media and be like, hey, I see you're coming through. Do you want me to shoot this concert? And that's kind of just what I've been doing for the last couple of years.
So now, how do I want to phrase this here? So now, what do you do if the band says no? Or the PR says no? If that happens.
That's a good question. I don't think we've ever gotten no. Fair. I think we just don't get responses if they don't want us to.
What would you do if you got given a no? Would you just go in and pay? Oh, I guess you couldn't get in the photo pit though. So what would you do? What would you do?
At that point, we just don't shoot the concert. I know like with some bands, I know it was like, I think Baby Metal only lets specific photographers, like their approved list of people.
Yeah.
That's the first band that comes to mind that I know that we just like couldn't get passes for at all. I think there's others, like I want to say Slipknot does the same, maybe. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure actually anymore, but there's just a few that have like an approved photographer list because they specifically like those people's work, I guess, and no, they're confident that they'll get good photos.
Fair. I'll let Aaliyah take over again. I don't want to ask the next one.
So if you had to like pick three, what are like the top three struggles of doing live photography?
Definitely lighting is the main one. Lighting is just like mostly unpredictable. A lot of bands some of them will bring their own lights and kind of have it synced to like their music, so they know exactly how the light's gonna basically cooperate with whatever they're doing. But a lot kind of just leave it up to the venue, and especially if it's like a really underground metal show, a lot of the time they just kind of throw on a red light and leave it that way. So when you have like the red light, it's just you can't
Red's the
really
worst, right?
yeah, pretty much that, or like no light. But it's difficult to pick up any sort of detail in that. And of course, you don't have different tones. You have, red and black and like different shades of gray, I guess. But so there's just, I don't know, you basically have to make those photos black and white. And even then, it's not a whole lot of they just don't turn out that great.
Any other struggles?
Oh, yeah, you said top three. I'm sorry.
Curtis, I interrupted. Go ahead, Curtis.
Sorry, I wanted to, well, yours was probably better anyways. I just want to know what do you do if the pictures turn out really bad? Like, let's say you take a bunch and they just the lighting's off, you couldn't make it look good. And how do you explain it to the PR or the band if this happens? I mean, it must happen.
I mean, yeah, a lot of the time you can kind of edit them back to being tolerable, I guess. If they're too grainy, you can just take a slider in Lightroom and kind of reduce the grain, or you can improve like the lighting a bit, like, or the exposure in post as well. And just those are like usually the main two issues. I'm not really sure. I think most of the time it'll like people will still post like the few best ones and then kind of just be like, hey, here's what we got. Lighting was horrible or some sort of other issue happened, I suppose.
Fair. Okay. Fine. Cool. Aaliyah?
So lighting is number one issue.
Yeah,
struggle.
definitely.
What are there like any other notable ones? A couple other notable ones?
Trying to think. I know like having too many photographers in the photo pit kind of gets a bit crowded. That's kind of tough, but usually people are pretty like nice and kind of will help each other out and make sure everybody has enough room. I know some venues don't have a photo pit, and if it's a pretty packed show, that kind of ends up being an issue. Then it's like, especially with Reggie's, that happens a lot. So it's like you can kind of have to just like weave through the audience and find a spot where you can like see the bands well enough, but also just like not get, hands in the way that are up in the air, and just like you have to coordinate the shot correctly while like trying to get like a good shot and still like not get like, audience in the way and all that. So that definitely makes it a bit more difficult.
So how did you kind of figure out how to do the photography end of things then? Because most people fuck it up. Like, I couldn't take a good picture to see it. So like you said how you do it, but you didn't really say how you figured it out though.
Oh, okay.
If you did it.
No, I don't think I did.
Okay.
I think it's just been through trial and error throughout the years. Eventually I figured out, what all the different settings do. I feel like I just read the manual when I got my first camera, because it like YouTube wasn't as big of a thing then.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess I had friends that also took photos, so I know I'd like ask them as well. So it's like, I don't know, I've been like friends with photographers for a bit as well, so it's just like I could have, like asked them for help whenever I needed to as well.
So you didn't really have formal training, you just kind of figured.
Nope.
Interesting. Okay. Very interesting. Okay. Aaliyah, go ahead.
What would you say is like your favorite thing about photography?
Yeah, I feel like I get this asked a lot. I always struggle to word it correctly, but I like that essentially photographs last forever. I mean, as forever as they can. But I don't know, photos will pretty much outlive all of us. So it's nice to have some sort of more of a more permanent memory of things. And I feel like it also like kind of helps bands in a way, kind of gives back. It's nice to have, press like cover your shows, and especially like for social media, as sad as it is, it's really important. And using photos will make, posts show up sooner or get more traction or more engagement, etc. So just kind of that also helps as well. Just like even if I'm not playing music, I can still kind of give back in a way. I don't know. I like to help people, I guess, in a way. And I feel like photos are always like, I don't know, if they're good photos, they make people feel better too. So that's always nice.
Yeah, you're kind of like capturing a positive moment and like
Yeah.
helping people relive that
Yeah.
moment.
Mhm.
So it's really, really cool in that way.
Yeah. Photos end up lasting longer than a lot of memories, as sad as that is. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You have any insights on social media? Any deeper insights on social media that you think bands should learn from you?
Uh no, I don't know. I feel like everything's like a mess right now with social media. It's like some people get really lucky, and I'm not one of those, because it's just like, I don't know, especially I know Instagram, TikTok's actually the main one right now, and I still haven't messed with that, even though I probably should. Um, but I'm not into like the making videos, or like even photographers are like dancing with their cameras and stuff for TikTok, and I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, it's great if it works, but not really my thing. Um, Instagram is trying to compete with that, as is Facebook with their Reels programs, and it's still like, I don't know, photos aren't really doing as well, even on platforms that used to be specifically like photo sharing apps and more like portfolio programs. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I have like no idea how to do social media at this point anymore.
But just do it, right? Like
Hmm.
bands should do it, regardless of if they know how to do it or
Yeah, it definitely will help in some regard. I feel like at least have some sort of a presence, even if you don't post that often. I don't know. It's good to have some sort of way for people to contact you besides, I guess, an email as well.
Yeah,
Just interacting with like fans or friends in general on band social medias, I think is helpful in a promotional sense, or just in general.
I have a question that is totally off topic of what Aaliyah had, so I'm going to go right way off the rails here.
Mhm.
So one thing that people are always forgetting to do, and I'm guilty of this
Uh-huh.
100%, credit the photographer. Um, I don't know how your feelings about it. I would assume that you want to have your photo credited whenever possible. Can you kind of go over why that is? Because everybody forgets. Like I said, I'm guilty of this too, so I'm not one to talk, but I know it's like a big deal a lot of times that people don't credit the photographer. So can you kind of explain
Yeah.
why that would be?
Um,
Want it
I
to
mean,
be credited.
yeah, it's generally, I mean, like if someone did the work, they should be credited for the work, unless, I mean,
Yeah.
I know sometimes there's instances like for, I don't know, where you pay someone for the copyright and all that, and I know, I guess you don't get credited for that. I'm not really sure because I don't do that kind of thing, but
Sure.
a lot of people do forget, but it's like essentially forgetting to, list like someone that did a lot of the work, if not most of the work.
Yep.
So I don't know. I see it a lot more. I think bands have been pretty good at crediting lately. It's mostly like, I don't know, more other like different kinds of creators that tend to, I guess, forget more so. Or
Yeah. Like
especially if someone reshares a photo, I notice almost all the time they'll forget to credit the photographer, which in those instances it's usually the photographer that did more of the work
yep.
versus the subject. So that gets a bit frustrating sometimes. Plus, like,
Yeah.
I used to put watermarks on stuff, and it's just like either people will crop them out or they just look bad. So I gave up on watermarks for the most part.
Fair.
Yeah.
So now kind of going in line with that and sort of not at the same time. So
Mhm.
if someone wants to use one of your photographs, what do they got to do in order to have that happen without pissing you off, I guess?
I mean,
To
it's
put it
usually cool. I don't really have any issues with people not, um, I don't know, I don't get upset very easily.
fair.
As long as someone like tags like any collaborators in the caption to say like photo by whoever,
Yeah, yeah.
or like if it's a like a more of like a photo shoot event, like tag whoever did you know, someone's hair or makeup or made the outfit or whatever the shoot's for. As long as that's all listed, that's pretty much good. As far as I know, for me, that's enough. I know some people are very specific on not having photos used for things, or they need to be paid, or I don't know. But that's more of like I guess more of a professional standpoint versus like a hobby standpoint. So I know there's definitely big differences with that.
Totally. Are you do charge for yours though, do you not, or no?
No, I do not.
Don't. Okay,
Mhm.
so now this makes it even more interesting. Good. Okay, good. So okay, so then what would you consider to be your payment then for doing the pictures then from the band? Is it just the photo pass?
Pretty much, I guess. Yeah, I'd say that works. Also, they do like a ticket as well. Sometimes if you get a photo pass, usually it's just like a guest list.
Yep.
Just yeah, you get in for free as well. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I know for a lot of people that's a big no-no and they have to get paid, but
Yeah.
I feel like with a lot of bands, they would rather just get a worse photographer that doesn't charge. That's me, but in general, they would get like a worse photographer that doesn't charge. A lot of people probably wouldn't notice the photo
Yeah.
quality difference, or I'm not sure. Maybe they would, but
I think
there's
they
so
would
many
notice,
photographers now that it's
but they wouldn't know why.
oh
Like people will look at a photo and be like,
yeah,
eh, they won't know they won't notice a photo because it's not a great photo.
Yeah. So
true, yeah.
So they just won't like it. They won't respond to it. But if it's a good photo, they know it's a good
Mhm.
photo. They just don't know why it's a good photo.
That's
well,
actually very true. Yeah.
I want to know, like, I think this is a later question. I'm not on my notes right now because I'm thinking, but what does make a great photo? Like what is it?
Hmm. I
I think
figure
that
that
might,
varies per person, definitely.
well, for you.
Um,
So you tell me
Definitely
what, like,
something. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
for you, what I mean,
Yeah.
like, just your own opinion, like like for you as a photographer,
Mhm.
what is what is a great photo? Not necessarily perfect, but your photography,
Yeah.
you're doing photography for Shield of Wings right now. It's Aaliyah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Boom. How would
Um,
great photograph of Aaliyah, for example, as a band member,
um,
obviously.
Pretty much just like I'd say in general, photos that like that should stand out and not look like the rest. I suppose having a unique style. Again, lighting is probably still the most important. I know a lot of people will post photos where like, you know, people are shadowed really poorly or just like stuff just looks weird. So yeah, definitely having good lighting, trying to make sure the subjects actually like how they look. Definitely, I'd say are probably some of the most important parts. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, having it stand out in some way, or just like yeah, solid setting, lighting, all that. I
So
figured.
okay, so I'm dumb on this. I'm gonna
Mhm.
ask probably really dumb questions here. So just to walk me
No
through this here.
questions though.
This is probably gonna sound dumb to you, but I'm gonna ask anyway. So okay, so you got a photo shoot right now. You're doing Aaliyah, we're gonna say, because she's sitting right here and she's only out of the
Yeah.
two of us. And so what do we do first? To like, do you make her do, like, what do? You get her and like, what do you do?
Like for a like a more of a
Photo
like a
shoot.
promotional shoot setting or like a live concert.
Well,
I guess you can't make someone do anything live.
oh, you can't. So like, I get you do regular shoots too, right? Not just live.
I do, yeah.
Okay, cool. So what would you do?
I know the last time I was just like, what I do? I think I like walked up to you and said like, all right, just start headbanging and play like pretend you're playing the same chords you were just playing. Because it was
What
like
about
I know there's in the back.
what
Mhm.
about before that though, Lisa? So does the photo? I guess what I'm trying to ask first is like the photographer kind of directing like how she's going to look, or just is that up to her?
A little bit of both. So I know like some people have at least some sort of preferred like, you know, preferred angles or like ways that they feel like their face is lit best.
Okay.
But generally start off having someone pose how they like feel best, I should say, and then I try to adjust people based on if like the lighting's hitting from an unflattering angle or if like, you know, like push shoulders back or just try to fix something about posing, basically, but in a polite way, I suppose.
Okay. So I'm still going to ask more dumb questions. I'm really sorry if this is dumb, but I'm just trying to process there because I don't know any. Okay, so you're doing the so you've kind of got her. You got her the way you want her to look. You got the pose going here, but she thinks she looks good one way, but you don't think it looks good. What do you do in that case? If the subject thinks that what they're doing looks good, but you don't think it looks good, because you mentioned you got to have their buy-in, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if I've had that issue. I think I probably would just be like, I'll take a photo both ways and kind of show the person how, like, what the difference looks like, and then we can both kind of, decide together and see, if you can take something good from one, combine it with like the good from the other, or just straight up kind of work off of the one they prefer. So, I
Cool.
mean, ultimately it's about making the other person, like the subject, feel like good and like look good. So it is ultimately up to them.
Well, yeah, that's why I was asking, because like, I mean, sometimes you would think, I would imagine that the person themselves thinks it looks good, but it might not, in your opinion. So
Mhm.
I guess what I get, so are you like more the director, or are you just like, walk me through still some more here?
So I basically will try not to, like, I only direct if like they want me to, essentially, because I know like a lot of people are particular about how they want to pose and look. I mean, which they should be.
Yeah,
But if someone wants advice on what to do or like some sort of direction, then I'll try to, provide a bit more of that, but only if they ask for it.
fair. Cool. What if they don't really know what they want? What would you do in that case? They're just like, I want good pictures.
Um,
That's what I would do to you. I'd be like, I just want good pictures.
Good point. Let's see. I mean, probably just find like a cool spot to shoot, and then make sure that the lighting is, or like fix the lighting to kind of look good in that situation, and kind of work off of there and try to find like poses or angles that are most flattering for that person.
Okay. I know there's more than I want to ask you on this. It's probably like, for me, this is kind of interesting because you're kind of getting down to the nitty gritty of it. How long would it normally take to do a photo shoot, like for a band, let's say?
Mm, It varies completely on the band and what they want. Could take like 15 minutes. It could take like 4 hours, 5 hours. It varies, and it's like, especially like I know with Shield of Wings, they were doing like last time I shot them, they were doing like a music video shoot. So I was
Yeah.
kind of just there throughout most of that, and just kind of grab some shots like throughout the whole thing.
Mhm.
Um, but I know for others, it's kind of like, hey, show up here and we'll grab a few shots like after our set at this venue.
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that too, where it's like, even then it's probably 5 minutes.
What's the longest it would take normally to do, like, you mentioned Shield of Wings, like how long did they take, for example?
Well, they're also doing a video shoot.
True.
It's like a little different than like a studio shoot or like
Yeah.
a promo shoot,
Yeah,
because she was kind of taking behind the scenes photos for
pretty
us,
much. Yeah.
but it was also
Mm.
kind of like live photography because it was while we were performing.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
What do
maybe
you,
talk about like an actual promo session you might do. How long would that
Yeah.
take?
yeah.
I'm trying to think. I feel like everything I do is like mini shoots at this point, if it's not a live concert. Um, I want to say like 2 hours. I think is the last time I shot like a full band in a like a warehouse type location. I think it was like 2 hours. We picked like, I think 4 or 5 different spots, and then kind of try to, position everyone, make sure not like all 5 of the band members are all holding their hands the same way, and all that sort of stuff like that. All the little details and things.
How do you keep bands for 2.5 hours doing pictures? Like, it's like herding cats. How do you manage to pull that off?
It's
Sorry.
usually they're the ones that want to. I always feel like it's like, all right, we got all the different poses and things we can do, but it's kind of mostly just changing up like the location, I
Fair.
suppose. Like if there's different, like, wall textures or different, different spots and all that. That's kind of where it makes it look a bit different. Because otherwise it's like the same people doing the same thing in the same place. And there's not really any much of a point to keep doing, the same thing like that for a couple of hours.
Now a random question that just popped up in my mind. So you said usually with the concert photography, you get paid in tickets. How do you get paid for doing a regular photo shoot? you're not getting tickets out of curiosity?
I guess that usually people like throw me a bit of money, but even then I don't charge a lot just because I just don't. I don't know why. I
Fair.
think that
No,
it's like, yeah.
so how do you kind of pick and choose who you're going to do then? Because I mean, if you're not charging for it, you must have people that are just trying to hit you up to do it. Heck,
It depends. It depends on like, I don't know, like I feel like people have preferred people they already like to work with. So it's a lot of the
Fair.
time it'll be like a friend's band will be like, hey, can you do this on this day and for this long? And it's like if
Mhm.
I'm available, sure. If I'm not, then either they find someone else or we reschedule a different day, or yeah, there's like a lot of options too. So
Fair.
and plus there's just like a lot of photographers. Something on the screen here. Okay, sorry, there's like a thing on there. Got it. Okay. Anyway.
Maybe another question you could answer, in
Mhm.
an ideal universe, what do you think a band should be prepared to pay for a professional promo shoot?
It's a good question. I'm honestly not too sure because I feel like anytime I like will quote something, people will be like, "Oh, that's it." So I don't know if that's like a me problem, but again, it's like a lot of bands will either expect less, some will expect it to be more. I know for more professional situations, people will generally go a lot higher. So honestly, not too sure of a range. It depends if you're doing like a full shoot, how many edits, how many photos, if it's like an hourly rate. So it just varies entirely on, I think, what somebody wants. So it's hard to like pick a specific number essentially without, getting more details first.
So how many pictures do you think a band should have for like a regular studio type shoot?
Um, I suppose it depends on what they would need them for. If they're doing either just like social media promo, if they're doing
So
individual band
let's,
shots.
let's just say social media. So they want a bunch of stuff they want content for their Facebook and their Instagram for a few
Mhm.
weeks.
Okay. I feel like with a lot of group shots, it's kind of like people use them as their, their banners or their profile photos or promoting a tour.
Mhm.
Um, Usually like one good one per location, or like, if it's like a warehouse location, like one per room or one per setting is usually
Fair.
good. You just pick like the best one out of all of those. The one that everyone kind of likes what they look like. Like the most people like what they look like in, basically.
Okay. Um, I think that's all I got on that. So Leah, go for it.
So I have another question about moving back to live concert photography. Is there anything that bands can do to make photographers' lives easier to help them get better photos?
Lights. It's always about lights. I know it's a lot of bands do bring their own lights and that helps like tremendously. So basically a lot more of that is always nice. Something to also keep in mind if it's like a professional, I guess it's all professional shoots, but if it's like a big show and there's a limit on songs, it's usually bands will, or photographers will shoot the first 3 songs of every band set. So like if, I don't know, don't start out with all the red lights, I guess. It's like make the lights brighter for the first 3 songs, I suppose. Or pick songs you want to look brighter, I guess. If I don't know if people kind of set the mood with the lights to that extent. But yeah, basically it's making everything brighter.
It's a
Also,
good
like
point.
another thing, sorry. I was
Just
saying another thing
affirming.
to do is, dang, I keep interrupting you.
Just affirming that was a good point.
Okay. Also, I feel like a lot of the time I'll notice like the cooler shots happening later after I can no longer be in the photo pit, or like no, like when no one can be in the pit, like
Yep.
different kind of interactions, like band members interacting with each other or the audience, or synchronized headbanging or something fun like that. Um, Throw them in like the first 3 songs also, so they're more spread out and people can get some cooler shots as well. Other than like, I know some bands will bring their own personal photographers, and like a lot of the time those are the only ones that will get like the absolute best shots because they can, be the only one in the pit during like those specific moments.
So now I'm kind of going off topic one more time here, but
So can I just sum up that point then before you go off topic?
Yep.
Make sure you don't forget what you were going to say though.
I'm
So
doing-
the tips included making sure you're using multicolored lights, not just red at the beginning of your set, and also being jazzed straight out the gate, like starting off high energy
Pretty
and
much.
interacting with the audience and each other immediately.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do when they first like, walk up there and kind of make like the big entrance. So that's always good. That helps kind of maintaining the energy. Also not just multicolored, but even white lights are great. Anything that's not red is fine. Even sometimes red with something else is cool too, just not straight up red or no lights or like red with fog. Yeah, any of those combos.
So I just realized my question is off the topic of photography, so we should probably end off on the photography part first, Aaliyah.
Okay, sure.
Where are we at on questions, Aaliyah? Now I've lost track of where that
I have one more photography question. And I mean, I guess you kind of addressed it earlier because you can't even get into a photo pit most of the time unless you are already working with a publication.
Mhm.
So what does it look like behind the scenes to try and get working with a publication or to get your photos published?
That's a good question. A lot of the time it's like I'll just notice like either a friend runs a webzine, which is what I've always done, is just kind of applied through a friend's webzine, and they just will need either, if it's local, they'll need another photographer to do more local shows, or someone to do like if they're more of a national webzine, sometimes they want people to cover, like a Chicago show versus there's people in, East Coast or West Coast that are also shooting. But I don't know, just get more people covering like throughout the country, I should say.
So
But
do you
yeah,
just like email the info email account, or if you know the person, you probably have a way to contact them?
it's always just been through social media. I'll usually message somebody on usually Facebook and be like, hey, do you need someone else? And then sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But that's always the way I've done it.
So unless we got a little bit more.
I think we can wrap that topic if you want to move on to something else, Curtis.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask her really quick about her other zones of being, if she's okay with that.
Sure.
Cool. So because I was just scoping out your Instagram account. So you have a few other things that you do as well.
Yeah.
Can you briefly kind of go over that so I know what I can ask and what I can't ask before I
Sure.
ask?
I mean, I figure if I don't want to answer something, I'll just be like, no,
Fair.
I don't know. Whatever
Fair.
works.
Well, I was more interested in the cosplay aspect of things. Can you kind of
Okay.
go over that's like a big thing for a lot of people nowadays, it seems like. So can you kind of go over
Yeah.
works?
Okay. I guess what do you want to know specifically? Because there's a lot of
About
aspects of it.
big things. So I mean, you tell me. I'm not really sure. So I'm dumb right now on purpose because I really.
So how
Okay.
did you get started in cosplay?
That's also something I've been kind of doing on and off for a while, but kind of got back into doing like being in photo shoots a bit, I guess more recently. I think I've been doing it again for a while, but I initially just wanted to, I don't know, build armor from World of Warcraft. So like in real life. So I wanted to start on that, but just never really felt that my skills were enough because I would see people building these, crazy armors and not really knowing where to start. But I mean, eventually I just finally was like, all right, I gotta, start at least trying. I mean, like I made like the thing I've been wanting to make for like the last decade finally, and like I'm remaking it for the third time now, but I'm probably gonna, keep changing things or remaking parts until I'm happy with it. But at least I, did it finally instead of kind of like feeling like it's only for like, special people with special skills and money and time and stuff. So it's really something anyone can do, and that's kind of what I'm learning, I guess. not feel intimidated, I guess. Initially, like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, because everybody's like doing it like because it's something they love. So it's
Yeah.
just another community.
So I want to ask. Okay, this is going to be another dumb question, and I'm sorry again. I've always because I always had the idea that cosplay was like anime type stuff, but that's not what you're doing. You're doing like something else, it seemed like to me. So can you kind of go?
It's a little bit of all that, yeah. Anime, gaming, comics. Those are like the main ones. Or people do, I think, webtoons now. I think is a big thing.
Okay,
But
you answered my questions. I'm trying to figure out exactly what's covered under the cosplay banner.
pretty much anything. I figure any sort of like a fandom or yeah, no, pretty much anything. People even do like they've been doing book characters lately too. I've noticed. So
Okay.
yeah, all of
Like
it.
Lord of the Rings movies, like fantasy
Mhm.
movies and such too. I mean, I assume that counts as cosplay.
Yeah,
No?
of course. Yeah, definitely.
I don't know these things. Okay, so then between something again, sorry, this is a dumb question. I'm legitimately curious.
No, that hasn't been dumb. You're good.
Okay. What's the difference between like cosplay and something like what Shield of Wings does? Because I wouldn't call that cosplay, but they're dressed up.
I mean,
So what
I feel like I
maybe
don't
it
know,
is.
it's tough to really tell because I feel like any sort of dressing up could technically count. So I haven't
Okay.
really figured out a way to differentiate the difference. I mean, I guess a lot more cosplay is kind of like you pick like a character, I guess. You're not being yourself, I think, is the difference. Probably. I think that's the main one for me because it's like even regular photo shoots without like any sort of like a character or theme, it's still like dressing up. It's still like not stuff I would wear like on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I kind of lump it all together. I figure.
So how is
So
she
like,
not cosplay, but then okay, I'm trying to get the difference here. Just tell me, guys. I'm not trying to be dumb. I'm
well,
like,
I was just going
No,
to
you're good.
differentiate. So like, say you're like looking at a power metal band where they have fictional fantasy characters that they've created and they're dressing up as those characters.
Mhm.
Do you think that would be more like cosplay?
Probably. Yeah, I figure. If there's like
But it's not like a
specific.
specific character from like a literary.
Yeah.
I feel like usually it's a specific character from a literary, film, television, or like video game.
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
It's usually a specific other character that you're dressing
Yeah.
as,
I think so. Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. I think.
not just trying to dress cool.
Yeah. That
Well,
works.
that's because I was kind of curious about that because like for example, like you said, the power metal bands and there's a lot of symphonic. They don't dress like that on the street. I don't think you're dressed up as like a maiden when you go walking around Chicago, Aaliyah.
Well, it's not this, it's different though, because it's not just trying to dress up. I'm dressed up, you know, and dressing up to go to a party would be the same. Like you don't go to work dressed like you would to go to a party.
That's true.
Right.
That's
But
true.
some people might create a fictional character and then they dress as that fictional character. And so it's a different mindset behind it.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay. I was curious
That
about
makes
that.
sense.
So I got one more question, and then Aaliyah can shut us down if she's ready, or if she wants to continue. Fine too. Okay, so how well do you shoot cosplay first, like for other people, or just for yourself, or do you just do it yourself? Okay, so
Yeah, I
what's
do
the
both.
okay? So what's the difference between doing like a cosplay shoot and like a band shoot, if there is one?
If it's just portraits, it's I don't know, pretty similar. I know sometimes people will want like some more focus on if they built something like some of the detail work, or some people want to avoid that entirely. Um, I feel like in general, cosplayers will want a lot more editing versus like bands is kind of just like make the colors nice and like fix bad lighting. Whereas I don't know, that's pretty much the main thing. I feel like maybe like yeah, more details and then yeah, more editing.
Fair. Okay. I think I have all my questions answered for now, Aaliyah, unless you got think of more stuff to ask her.
I guess I want to wrap things up by asking, like, are there any tips that you would give to aspiring photographers on how to get started in photography?
Okay. I mean, there's like, yeah, there's a lot of people that are picking it up just that I know, like know day to day, and it's great because there's a lot of just good quality gear out there now where it's like even people who don't really know what they're doing can take nice photos. So it's nice in a way. I mean, it's you can pretty much also learn anything on YouTube as well. So it's like You can get like, a beginner. I like Sony a lot, Sony mirrorless cameras. That's usually what I would recommend to people. So you can, start with like, a used camera or a budget camera, and then there's YouTube videos. You can look up the basics, and it's pretty straightforward once you get over the initial learning curve. And there's, just endless knowledge online at this point. So it's a lot of just studying on your own, and then, grabbing some friends, finding a place to shoot, and just work off each other as well. Like you can just, see what looks cool. You know, like I did that I did that once in a while. It's like we'll have like friends that are also photographers. We'll, just take photos of each other, or just, just so we can like learn about different lighting situations, different, posing, all that fun stuff.
Cool. You got anything else?
Thank you so much for your time, Lisa. I think
Yeah.
this is a lot of good information for people,
It's good.
and
Thanks for having
appreciate
me.
you giving us your time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you asking me to do this.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, until next time, make like a bull and throw those horns up.